There was a time I thought I could just outwork the fatigue until I couldn't. Hey everyone, welcome back to the Hybrid Athlete Dad podcast. In today's episode, I'm going to be talking about balancing strength and endurance without burning out. This episode is about finding the sweet spot between building strength and pushing endurance while avoiding the burnout that can derail progress, especially when you're juggling fatherhood and work. Now, for myself, I'm someone that likes to train twice a day. So I go to the gym and then I also run. I do that 5 days a week. And then I do just an end of week run on Saturdays. I don't go to the gym Saturday or Sunday. But on top of that, I have my normal job. I have a side hustle that I run. And I have an almost 2-year-old daughter and a wife as well. So there's always a lot going on in my life. And it can be easy to burn the candle at both ends, and it can be easy to burn out, which is why I think it's an important discussion to talk about in today's episode. Something that I want to talk about before we hop into today's episode is just personal items, things, whatever may be going on in my life that I think that you may be finding interesting when it comes to fitness, when it comes to nutrition, or just anything in general that I think may be adding value to your life. So before I dive into today's episode, let's dive into that. I really enjoy this segment. I find that I get to get really personal with the audience and go through everything, go through my runs, go through my workouts, and I really enjoy this aspect. So I'm really hoping everyone that's listening enjoys these aspects as well. So first order of business, I should say, is I've seen it a couple times in the gym with this particular gentleman, and this isn't to knock on anyone, but I find it very unique. I've been going to the gym for quite a while now. I probably started going back when I was like a freshman in high school, so we're talking maybe 2011, 2012-ish, way back when. And not that I really knew that I was doing at the gym, more or less I was just going to the gym. But I've never seen someone do this, and if you do, good for you, but I just found it interesting. So what this individual does is he's bench pressing, so he warms up with 10, so he has a 10 on each side. Like, I'm not going to knock anyone for just starting off and trying to push together some weight. We all started somewhere. I started with the bar. I'm sure many of you listening started with the bar. I remember doing dumbbell press with 25s, and that was really heavy, and then obviously progressing it over time. So not to knock anyone, but what he does is you have the 10s on the bar, and then he puts a 45 on the bar. So obviously he can lift a decent amount, but instead of taking the 10s off, he puts the 45s on. So you have the 10s that are closest to you, and then the 45s. Myself, and I find that 99% of the people, when they go and add weights to it, they would take the 10s off, then put the 45s on, then they would reapply the 10s on top of it. So it's just a unique way I haven't seen before. I had to do a double take when he was doing it the other day, and he continues to do it. And again, this isn't a knock on him. It's just something that's very unique, and I have never seen anyone ever do it in the gym before. Now, when it comes to working out, so I've been doing, I don't want to say one arm motions, but in a sense, and I'm not sure the exact context and the right verbiage for it, other than I do standing dumbbell press. So I'll have the dumbbell on my right arm, and then I'll push it over my head, and then I'll put the dumbbell down. I'll pick it up with my left arm, and I'll push it over my head. And I think it's been very interesting to see the muscle imbalance that I have from a strength perspective, because I'll go out and I'll do military presses, I'll do dips, and no problems. But I find that when I'm doing the shoulder press with just the dumbbell on one arm and then lifting it up, my right shoulder is stronger than my left shoulder. Now, conversely, my left tricep, so now I'm doing dumbbell tricep extension. So I have the dumbbell, I drop it down over my head, I lift it up, I find that my left tricep is stronger than my right tricep. Just some things that are interesting. I mean, for the most part, as I'm going through the workout, I'm using both arms. So just interesting. Even yesterday, I tried something new. So I've been progressing on the leg press. And I decided, let me just do single leg press. So I would go on my right leg, do reps, go on my left leg, and then do reps. So right leg good, left leg definitely not as strong. So it's just interesting. I think I want to do more of these types of workouts where I'm really working on making sure that I'm strengthening, whether that's a weak shoulder, and I wouldn't say it weak, but down a strong shoulder. Maybe this tricep's not as strong. Maybe this leg isn't as strong. So it's just interesting noticing these things at the gym over the past few weeks or so. So going to continue to work on those, but wanted to bring that up. On Saturday, it was interesting. So on Friday, I ended up going out and doing a 10-mile run. Very pleased with that. I'm running a half marathon with my brother at the end of June, and the goal is he wants to get under 2 hours. I want to make sure that I get that goal with him. I know I ran my second half marathon in like an hour 54, but I haven't ran one in quite a while, so I just want to make sure I can continue to run the pace. So push myself a little hard on Friday, so that was great. I think I ended up running in like an 8:45 pace for that. So that was excellent. I was happy with that. Could have kept running. Something that's helped me and what I like, and this isn't a knock on the company, it's just my preferences. I use like the honey stinger gels, and then I use the BPN, the Bare Performance Nutrition gels, and I find the BPN gels are easier on my stomach. They're easier to get down. It tastes more like an applesauce type of consistency, where the honey stinger is more gooey. So I didn't really enjoy those ones as much, but I started taking them even though I'm not racing, and even when I do my training, I wouldn't be taking the gels too often. So now I make sure that when I go out and do a 10-mile run, I do take a gel before, and I take a gel about halfway through, just to mimic what race conditions are going to be like. Saturday, woke up expecting to go out and do a 5-mile run, and it was not the greatest weather. It was like 32 and just heavy, thick, slushy snow coming down, and pardon me. And I can run in rain. I've run through hail. I've run through rain. I know I talked about in the last episode. Maybe not the smartest decision I made. I've run through snow before, but what I won't run through is slush, because you get about a half mile in and your shoes are just soaking wet, and it's just not an enjoyable experience. Not to say that when it rains, I don't, my shoes don't get wet, but when it's slushy, it's really not enjoyable to be out there. So I ended up going to the gym and doing 5 miles on the treadmill at the gym. So knocked that out on Saturday, and it was weird to have it snow, because we were talking like the middle of April at this point for when it snowed. So definitely a little unique to snow at this point, a time in the year. And now I think the following Saturday, where it snowed, like, I actually went to a wedding and ended up snowing like 8 inches while I was there. Following Saturday, it's going to be almost 80 degrees. So it's crazy, the New England weather that we get. Or I guess I'm in New York. I don't know if we can consider that New England, but I was in Massachusetts. So going to stick with the New England ethos right there. Just a personal goal of mine that's been big at the gym that I've been working on for a little while, and just to give some updated progress, but is deadlifting. Deadlifted 375 for 3 on Monday with the goal of getting to 400, and I don't think 400's too far off. I like to progress rather slowly, in a sense, where I don't want to throw so much weight on and do it and throw out my back. So I believe I did 365 for 5, 2 sets of that, and then 2 sets of 375 for 3. So then the goal next week, okay, let's do 375 for 4, and then the following week, let's do 375 for 5. Week after that, okay, let's do 385 for 3, 385 for 4, 385 for 5, 395. I feel like if I'm that close, I might just throw the 2.5 extra pounds on there to get to 400. So probably about 6 to 8 weeks off. But again, I like to, when I'm doing such a heavy weight, I don't want to throw too much extra on there. I want to make sure that I can do it. But I mentioned the deadlifting because that's the first thing that I do on Monday after the weekend. And I find that that's probably one of the hardest exercises I do when it just comes to physically and mentally taxing. And I know that if I start out Monday hard, the rest of the week is going to be easy. And as I record this, definitely becomes easier throughout the week. Other than leg day, leg day is always hard. There's nothing easy I find about leg day. I'll do back, shoulders, triceps, biceps, chest throughout the week. Yeah, those are hard. Weighted dips are hard. Bench pressing's hard. But just something about leg day, something about hack squats, Bulgarian split squats, where I do Bulgarian split squats right now, and I'm working up to 3 sets of 12 with 50-pound dumbbells, and it's like my legs are just shot, and yeah, it's just not an enjoyable time at the gym. But I know like I have to do leg day. I don't want to skip leg day, but it's just a hard day of working out. So other than leg day, the rest of the week is typically easier after I've done my hardest lift on a Monday morning. Something that I'm dealing with right now is quite a bit of leg soreness, and I'm trying to work in and trying to figure out what I should be doing. So I did the long run on Friday, like I mentioned. That was a 10-mile run. On Monday, did a tempo run. So it's a 5-mile tempo run, and the way that I have it set up is I'll do like a mile warm up, and then I'll do a quarter mile, basically sprint quarter mile. I don't want to say cool down because I'm still doing like 9-minute miles, which is my easy run, but it's not like I'm running like a 10-minute, 11-minute and going real slow. But I found that doing the long run, the 10 miles on Friday, and then obviously I did 5 miles on Saturday, and then doing the tempo run. And when I was doing the sprints, I think my mileage time was like 6:40 on them, and I'd be holding that pace for about a minute, minute and a half, maybe a minute 45, and doing that 7 times. Found my legs were really sore. Really needed a good night's sleep on Monday night. Not to make excuses or anything like that, but our daughter, she ended up getting sick in the middle of the night. I want to say middle of the night. She woke up at, fell asleep about 9:30. She woke up at 10:30 and just pretty much didn't sleep through the rest of the night. She ended up throwing up, not feeling great, but just exhausted, running on about 1 hour. Excuse me, running about 1 hour of sleep on Tuesday. So I don't know if just not having the right rest and recovery, but legs have definitely been sore. And trying to figure out if I need to space out the long run and the tempo runs so they're not like only 2 days apart with a 5-mile run in between. So even as I share this, I am not perfect on my own. I make mistakes. I realize maybe this long run, this tempo run, is not too close, and that's why I like to share it with you on on this podcast, because we're all in it together. Now, diving into today's episode of balancing strength and endurance without burning out. Early, when I was trying to balance my strength and balance my endurance, I was trying to lift heavy and hit high mileage of running, and it was easy to become exhausted early in the beginning. I've talked about it before when I was training for my triathlon, becoming very exhausted from it. And I found what works for best for me is, yes, right now I'm doing 5 days of running, 5 days of lifting. I didn't always do 5 days of, I was in the gym 5 days, but it was more Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and Tuesdays, Thursdays were more, I was doing more abs. I wasn't really lifting too many weights. Right now I do 5 days of strength training and 5 days of running. But when I started out running, I started doing running about 3 times a week, and I run about a mile, mile and a half, and that was my run. And then over time, I found that I started to increase my mileage, where now I run on average about 5 miles a day, and then add in a long run, whether that's 7 or 10 miles per week. So I found for me what really worked best was just making sure that I wasn't increasing my mileage too fast and I wasn't trying to lift too heavy. Obviously, now I know I mentioned talking to you about deadlifting, but that grew up over time. I think when I started deadlifting a few months back, I started off at 225 and just started working my way up from there. A common misconception people might have is that more is better. And it sounds great. I want to work out longer. I want to run faster, which is great. But then eventually your body starts to push back. You start to break down, and it's just not an enjoyable place to be in. So yes, I want to push myself hard when I work out and when I run, but I realize, okay, maybe I do one recovery run or one long run per week. I do one tempo run, and then the other 3 runs a week, I'm just running at a nice, easy recovery pace. I'm not really caring about my time as much. Same thing in the gym. Okay, maybe there's a few lifts that I really want to work on. Okay, what are they? Maybe they're weighted dips. Maybe they are deadlifts. Maybe they're bench pressing, and focus on those instead of trying to do all these massive lifts on top of trying to push my body. And I find that just over time, your body is going to start pushing back and it's just going to start breaking down. Some of the warning signs that I ignored and I've learned to recognize over time. So this would be poor sleep. Just either you have poor sleep, the sleep quality is not great. It's nice on my Garmin. It will tell me what my sleep score is and how I slept the previous night. I don't want to take it to an exact science because sometimes it might not be 100% accurate. I don't want to wake up and be like, "Oh, I got a 50 sleep score. I'm going to have a terrible day." So, no, I don't want that, but you can tell when you have a bad sleep. I know when I slept an hour, that's not great. I usually like to sleep 7, 8 hours, 6, 7, 8 hours, depending on the day. Yeah, that's not great sleep. But I knew of it coming forward. So maybe you have poor sleep. Maybe you're just so exhausted all the time. Maybe you're irritable. I find that if I start lashing out at people, I'm like, wow, I'm not a joy to be around. Usually it's because I'm stressed about my list and I'm stressed about getting everything done. Like, okay, like if I have to take it easy this one day, is it really going to kill me? Probably not. So why am I worrying about it so much? There could be a lack of motivation. Then there's a difference between feeling the resistance, because we all feel that resistance from time to time. Maybe I don't want to go out for a run today. Maybe I don't want to lift, right now. So it's encountering that lack of motion, but still putting yourself out there. Or not so much the lack of motivation or motion. I don't know exactly what I said there. It's been a long week. But with all that said, is you feel that resistance and push through it. Then there's that difference between like I physically can't run anymore or lift anymore. I can't do this. So those are the signs that you really want to look out for. It's kind of like, okay, if I'm irritable, I got to pull it back. If my sleep quality is bad, I got to pull it back. If running and lifting is the absolute last thing that I want to do, and it pains me because I want to enjoy lifting. I want to enjoy running. I don't want to lack the motivation. Not every day do I want to be like, okay, like I'm super excited to work out or go for a run, but over time, I'm sure you can figure out the difference between that resistance and just being like, I'm just burnt out. This isn't working. I've done too many lifts. I've done too many runs. I got to figure out something else. And I got to be smarter about how I'm training. It's not about just training harder and pushing yourself, it's training smarter. Over time, I learned what works best for me in my running when it comes to balancing my heavy lifts with my recovery runs and my strategic rest. So I know that on Mondays and Wednesdays, those are typically the days where I push myself harder at the gym. So those are the days I'm going to go out and do 5 miles. I know that on Tuesdays and Fridays, I just do chest and biceps where I push myself, but I don't do as many exercises as I do on Mondays and Thursdays. Or Mondays and Wednesdays, I should say, and Thursdays as well. But usually I like to use Thursdays as a recovery day. Sometimes I might run 2 miles if need be. But Mondays, Wednesdays, I know how I'm going to feel. So I'm going to do a 5 mile run. On Tuesdays and Fridays, where Tuesdays I like to do a 6 mile. Friday, I'm either doing a 7 or 10 mile run, depending on how the week shapes up and how many miles I need to get in that week. So I plan my workouts with my runs. You heard it before, and I don't have time to run later in the day. That word doesn't work best for me. It would probably be better for me, but I like to run right after I drop my daughter off at daycare. I come home, I can get it done before the workday even starts. So I make sure that doing my running and strategically planning it on days that are a little bit easier, or I know the days that are going to be a little bit harder. Some tools that helped me was I don't know exactly what this is, but it's tracking my HRV. So I believe that's heart rate variability, and I think it has something. Again, I don't know exactly what it is. All I know is, and I don't want to like spew information and be like, oh, like I know exactly what this is, and you know, let me tell you. But all I know is HRV. I see it on my Garmin. My average is like 80-ish out of 100. I don't know what that means. All I know is when I start to see that go down, I know that I'm fatigued. I need more rest. And it's crazy because I'm usually in the 80s, and I had a pretty bad cold about 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, and the HRV dropped into the 50s before I even really started to feel bad. And that's how I knew, okay, I might be getting sick, and it's always been spot on. So that's been very helpful from a watch standpoint, is tracking that. Again, I don't want to take too much into it. If it's 70 one night, I don't be like, oh gosh, I'm getting sick. But I know like if it's 80s, 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 I'm typically feeling good. If it's now 70 and then 60, okay, I'm super fatigued or something's going on. So that's something that has helped me with my watch. I like to use deload weeks. And what I mean by that is every other week, I'll switch up how far my long run is. So instead of going 10 miles every week, which would just be a mental strain on me, and that's not what I'm looking to do, I do 7 miles one week, 10 miles the following week. Sometimes I'll switch it up when I'm at the gym. Instead of bench pressing, I'll use the Smith machine bench, or I'll use one of the machines that we have at the gym. So maybe instead of doing free weights, I'll do all machines. I find that rotating between back and forth, I find that typically the machines are a little bit easier on my body. So I'll use more machines. So you're just using these deload weeks every so often, even just switching up the exercises that I do. Like, maybe my shoulders are sore. So instead of me going out and doing, let's say, shoulder flies or lat raises, I'm going to go and do the lat raise machine, or maybe I'm going to use the cable. I'm still feeling the burn, but not as taxing on my body as if I have 35-pound dumbbells and I'm doing the lateral raises. The last tool, and I don't even know how much you could call it a tool, but it's just listening to my body and not my ego. And I've done this too many times where I just push myself, push myself, push myself, especially when I've been sick. I'm learning I got to tone it down. I got to take it back. If I continue to push myself as hard as I'm going, it's not going to benefit anyone, and it's going to take me longer to recover. So just listening to your body and seeing how you feel. And again, this isn't feeling the resistance or being a little sore and not working out, but I guarantee you, just listening to your body and knowing like something's off. I just need a rest day, and just listen to your body. And again, maybe it's switching up the weights at the gym from free weights to using the machines, just simple things like that. But at the end of the day, you're going to know your body best, and it's going to be listening to your body. Now, when it comes to life outside of training, I call this the real burnout factor. And what I mean by that is being a dad and being this business owner and running this job. It adds a whole layer of fatigue that most people don't factor in. It's easy, I find, for myself to go on Instagram, and you can see these people that are they're training a lot, they're putting in a ton of miles, they're at the gym quite a bit, and that's awesome, and it's nice to get inspiration for them. But if they're not married, if they don't have any kids, and not to say that the kids aspect of it, or running a business, I'm sure most people, or maybe they have a stressful job, whatnot. There's a lot of layers that get factored in here where my time is very limited, and it can be very stressful. Maybe our daughter's sick, like I mentioned. Maybe there's something going on at my job. Maybe there's something going on in my side business that I've been running. And it just adds in this whole layer of fatigue where there's so much I gotta focus on, where I gotta focus on getting my lifts in, getting my runs in, getting my job done, getting my side hustle done, making sure that I'm being a good dad, making sure that I'm showing up there as a husband. So there's a lot to be cognizant of when it comes to burning out because I'm getting pulled in so many different directions. And that's why I talk about that recovery. It isn't just physical, but it's mental and emotional too. That's why I don't work out on Saturday or Sunday. I just need that time off. When I get up Saturday, I want to go out and I want to get my running so that way I can spend as much time with my daughter where I don't want to be on all the time. I want to have time to relax and spend time with my family because that's what matters most to me. What's helped me recover better is prioritizing sleep. So, like I mentioned before, I like to get, I wouldn't say 6 hours, but at least 6.5 to 6:45 to 7.5 during the week. And then on the weekend, I'll sleep a little later. I'll get about 8 hours of sleep on the weekend. So I definitely like to prioritize my sleep and just, I know like this morning, got up at 4:15, lights out, 9:15. I prioritize my nutrition. So I want to make sure that I'm eating quality, good quality foods. They're going to allow me to sustain myself over time and just allow me to be at my peak shape, be at my peak mental capacity. I don't want to eat processed foods. I want to eat, just good quality foods day in and day out. I've done episodes on nutrition, so feel free to check them out. I don't want to go through the whole diet and everything like that today when there's already been episodes on that. I have non-negotiable rest days. So I mentioned to you before, Saturday and Sunday. Not that I take a full rest day Saturday, but definitely every Sunday and a 90% or if not longer on Saturday. I'm also done working when my daughter gets home. So when she gets home for the day, that's it. I'm done. I don't want to be working anymore. There's nothing that's so important that I can't get done the next day or the next. I mean, if you really think about it, when it comes to work, and we spend so much time at work, I'm like, okay, if I don't get this done today, is it gonna have that big of an impact? Maybe, but am I gonna remember this moment in time of me sitting up in my office doing work, or am I gonna remember the time more that I went outside with my daughter and I pushed her on the swing? What really matters more to me? Maybe I don't get as much done in a day because as soon as she comes home, I stop working, but that's a priority for me. I don't want her to be wondering, like, where's dad all the time? And there's definitely been instances where I do have to stay and work a little bit while she is home, but I don't enjoy that. When she's home, I want to be with her at the end of the day. Your long-term success should be your focus over your short-term wins. It's more important to stay consistent over the years than to just peak for one race or one PR. You can go out and you can push yourself, go as hard as possible, run your best race, but it's going to be very hard to sustain that time after time after time. So that's why it's important to go to the gym and stay consistent with routine and to stay consistent with your running routine. Because if you go just so hard every single time and try to push yourself so much, it's going to be so easy to burn out. So that's why, again, it's just staying consistent. And yes, you want to push yourself, but it's to a certain degree where you don't want to push yourself so hard every single day that it doesn't become enjoyable anymore. I'm sure we've all been in that place. That's not where I want to be. I'm sure that's not where you want to be. I shifted my mindset from always grinding. I always got to push forward. I always got to be doing more. So okay, let's strategically process in my life, and that just improved the results I had and the lifestyle that I had. So it could be almost considered progressive overload at the gym. Maybe I do one extra rep. Maybe I do a little bit more weight. When it comes to excuse me, when it comes to running, I like to stay pretty consistent with that. I obviously, for me right now, it's like I want to keep my times on average between like 8:45 and 9.5 minutes. So I'm doing my more recovery, my easy runs. When I'm doing my hard runs, I want to get it to about 8:30. When I'm doing my long runs, the goal is now to keep it under 9, and just continuing that progress and knowing that I'm going to get faster over time, the more time that I get on my feet. But instead of me doing like a tempo run and sprints every single time and burning myself out, I want to strategically do that just once a week. So that way I'm not burning myself out from doing all these short runs, because it's hard. I mean, when you're going out there and you're doing sprints, and when I'm done, like I am beat, I am exhausted. For me to do that every day, that would be mentally draining. A final reminder that I want to give you is that you're not just training for performance, you're training to be present and capable for life. And that's something I have to remind myself often, is that at the end of the day, it's just running and lifting. There's so many important aspects in my life, especially when it comes to my wife and when it comes to my daughter. And that's who I want to be present for. And that's why I train in my lift. But I don't want this training and this lifting to overcome me, that I prioritize that over my family. As we end today's episode, I want you to remember that strength and endurance can coexist, but only if you respect your body's limits. As we went through today's episode, I shared with you how I got started and what it looked like to progress over time. For me, it was just doing strength training, and then I started to add in this endurance training, and I found what works best for me. When it comes to the endurance aspect of it, I know that I don't want to go more than 5 miles, 6 miles a day. That doesn't interest me. I'm sure there's people that go 10 miles a day, but honestly, when I run 10 miles, I'm pretty much shot for the day. I can get a little work done here and there, but I am pretty tired when I do that run. So if I did that every day, that's not how I want to live my life. When I run 5 or 6 miles, yeah, I'm a little tired for about an hour after, and then I'll bounce back and I'm pretty good. When I run the 10 miles, I can. It's pretty draining physically and mentally. So for me to do that every day, that's not something that I want to do. Burnout isn't a badge of honor. It's a sign that something needs to change. If you feel as though you're getting burnt out, you're just pushing yourself way too hard, and there's something that you have to do, because I don't want you to push yourself so hard that now you become burnt out and you just give it all up together. I hope you really enjoyed today's episode. Now, I want you to tune into next week's episode, where I'm going to be discussing how to set realistic fitness goals post fatherhood.